This is the third video that I am doing for you for lesson 6-6, and this is page 431. And we are now going to look at the mid-segment of a trapezoid. We're at the top of the page, and you will remember that we studied the mid-segment of triangles, and this is going to be a little bit similar. So let's read what this paragraph says. The mid-segment of a trapezoid is the segment whose endpoints are the midpoints of the legs. Let's stop right there and look at the picture. Here's our trapezoid. We have the base here running parallel to the base here. And then we have the legs. Here's one leg. Just giving you a little bit of review here. Here's the other leg. All right, and we have a mid-segment running from the midpoint of this leg to the midpoint of this leg. All right, moving on. Let's look at the trapezoid mid-segment theorem. The mid-segment of a trapezoid, and I'm going to turn the phone so you can actually see the diagram at the same time. The mid-segment of a trapezoid is parallel to each base. So it's running parallel to BC and AD. So I'm going to label it as being parallel as a reminder. And the length of it is 1/2 the sum of the lengths of the bases. Let's say that one more time. The length of the mid-segment in a trapezoid is 1/2 the sum of the bases. So all we're doing really is we're averaging those two bases. We're adding them up and dividing by 2 to get our mid-segment. Let's say that AD was 10. The length of it is 10. Let's say the length of BC is 6. Well, what we know about the mid-segment is it is 1/2 the sum of the bases. So the sum of these bases would be 10 plus 6, which is 16, and then we take 1/2 of it, or we divide it by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8, so the mid-segment is going to be 8. This is how we would write this as an equation. We would say our mid-segment is 1/2 the top base plus the bottom base, or if it were turned on its side, the one side base plus the other side base. So one more time, the mid-segment is 1/2 of base 1 plus base 2. All right, let's go on to do an exercise with that, an example. Find lengths using the mid-segment theorem. We want to find ST. Let's come to our diagram. In this problem, instead of being given the two bases, the top and the bottom, we're actually given the mid-segment and one base. So we are going to need to use our formula that we learned in the theorem to solve this. We can simply say that MN is equal to 1/2 of ST plus RU. And we know, I forgot to write N, I apologize. MN is what that should have said. Okay, we know what MN is, it's 31, and it equals 1/2 of ST, which we do not know, plus RU, which we do know. Now to solve this, we first need to get rid of the 1/2 so that we can do what's in parentheses. When dividing fractions, don't ask why, flip that sucker and multiply. So we are going to multiply by the reciprocal instead of dividing by 1/2. So we're just going to flip it, multiply both sides of the problem by 2, and we'll end up with 62 on the left, and on the right, we will just have ST plus 38. So now we need to subtract 38 from both sides, and let me grab my calculator. That is going to be 24. So ST is equal to 24. So the length of our top base would be 24. Now that is all done for you in that example, but I just wanted you to see me work through it. Now let's do one last one. This is the check it out. And again, they want us to find one of the bases. They did not simply give us the two bases and ask us to find the mid-segment. They made it a little more challenging. So we need to use that formula again. The mid-segment, XY, and I'm going to write this formula. In this case, XY is going to equal 1/2 the sum of the bases. And the sum of the bases would be FG plus EH. All right, and then we plug in what we know. We know that the mid-segment XY is 16.5, and it equals 1/2 the sum of the bases, which is 25, plus what we don't know, which is EH. We're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 1/2, which means we're going to multiply it by 2. That cancels the 1/2 on the right and equals 33 on the left. So now we have 33 equals 25 plus EH. That's what we were left with, 25 plus EH. We subtract 25 from both sides and we're left with EH equals 8. So that is our second base. And that is the end of this video. So you are now equipped for your homework on 6-6 with what we did in class, which was the first half of the lesson, and these 3 videos, which is the second half of the lesson. And I am actually going to do one more video for you, which goes back to lesson 6-5, which we have skipped up to this point. And we're just going to touch on it. It's a little bit of important information, and I'll do that next.